Imagine a world long, long ago, a world filled with incredible creatures of all shapes and sizes. This was the time of the dinosaurs, a period stretching back millions of years before the first humans walked the earth. Among these magnificent animals lived a very special type of dinosaur known as the Oviraptorid. Its name once meant egg thief, because the first fossils were found near what scientists thought was another dinosaur's nest. But now, we know the truth is far more wonderful. The Oviraptorid was not a thief at all. It was a dedicated and caring parent, a guardian of its own precious eggs, willing to face any danger to protect its future young. These dinosaurs were truly remarkable in their appearance. They walked on two strong legs, much like a modern bird. They had feathers covering their bodies, though they could not fly. Their heads were often adorned with a bony crest, a little like the cassowary of today. With their sharp beaks and long arms, they were perfectly equipped for life in the harsh landscapes of the Late Cretaceous period. Their story is not one of monstrous power, but of something far more relatable and profound, the instinct to care for the next generation. It is a story that has been pieced together bit by bit from clues left behind in the ancient rocks. The world of the Oviraptorid was a place of constant challenge. The climate could be extreme, with vast, sandy deserts and powerful storms. Food was not always easy to find, and danger lurked around every corner. Yet in this difficult world, these dinosaurs found a way to thrive. They built their nests on the ground, carefully arranging their eggs in a neat circle. This wasn't just a random act, it was a deliberate and thoughtful process. The parent would then sit in the middle of this circle, using its own body to shield the eggs from the sun, the wind, and a host of ever-watchful predators. This incredible behavior, this act of brooding, is something we see all around us today. When you see a bird sitting on its nest, you are witnessing a legacy that began with dinosaurs like the Oviraptorid. The fossil evidence has completely changed our understanding of these creatures. We have found skeletons of Oviraptorids perfectly preserved, sitting directly on top of their clutches of eggs. They died in the very act of protecting their young. This discovery tells us a powerful story of parental care, a story of sacrifice and devotion that has echoed through millions of years of Earth's history, connecting these ancient reptiles to the birds that fill our skies. The nest of an Oviraptorid was a masterpiece of instinctual engineering. It was not a simple hole scraped in the ground, but a carefully constructed home for its future offspring. These dinosaurs would choose a suitable spot, often in a wide, open area, perhaps to see potential dangers approaching from a distance. The parent would then arrange the long, oval-shaped eggs in a precise, circular pattern. The eggs were often placed in pairs, standing on their ends and leaning slightly inwards. This careful arrangement created a ring, with an open space right in the very center. This space was not empty by accident. It was designed for the parent itself. Once the eggs were laid and arranged, the parent's long vigil would begin. The Oviraptorid would settle down into that central space, its body fitting perfectly within the ring of eggs. From this position it could provide constant warmth and protection. Its feathered arms, like great feathered fans, could be spread out to cover the entire clutch. This would shield the delicate eggs from the scorching heat of the midday sun and keep them warm during the cool desert nights. This act of brooding is a clear sign of advanced parental care, showing that these dinosaurs were far from the mindless monsters they were once thought to be. The commitment of the Oviraptorid parent was absolute. For weeks and perhaps even months it would remain at the nest, rarely leaving its precious cargo unattended. This required incredible endurance. The parent would have to survive on very little food, growing weaker as the days passed. Its primary focus was singular, to ensure the eggs remained safe until the moment they hatched. This devotion was not just about warmth, it was about constant, unwavering guardianship. The world was full of creatures that would see a nest of large eggs as an easy meal, and the parent was the only thing standing in their way. This behavior paints a vivid picture of family life in the age of dinosaurs. It shows us a world where the bond between parent and offspring was already a powerful force of nature. The shape of the nest, the position of the eggs, and the very posture of the brooding parent all point to a complex and successful survival strategy. The Oviraptorid was investing its own energy and risking its own life to give its young the best possible start. This level of dedication is a behavior we associate so closely with modern birds, and finding it so clearly displayed in a dinosaur from 75 million years ago is truly extraordinary. Life for a brooding Oviraptorid was a state of constant alert. While the parent was large enough to deter many threats, the world was teeming with smaller, opportunistic creatures that saw the nest as a buffet. These were the smaller scavengers and predators of the Cretaceous desert. Small, swift dinosaurs, lizard-like reptiles and early mammals were always on the prowl, their keen senses searching for any sign of a meal. A nest full of nutritious eggs, left unguarded for even a moment, would have been an irresistible invitation. For these smaller creatures, the parent Oviraptorid was a formidable obstacle, but the reward was great enough to make the risk worthwhile. These smaller predators would often use stealth and cunning to try and get to the eggs. They might try to sneak up on the nest while the parent was distracted or perhaps even sleeping. A group of them might work together, with some creating a diversion to draw the parent's attention while another darts in to snatch an egg. For the Oviraptorid, these constant nagging threats were a nuisance that could easily turn deadly for its offspring. It had to remain vigilant at all times, its head constantly scanning the horizon, its ears listening for the slightest rustle in the sand or the faintest footstep of an approaching thief. The Oviraptorid's beak, while not filled with teeth, was a powerful and sharp weapon perfectly suited for defense against such pests. A swift, decisive peck from the parent could easily injure or drive away a would-be nest raider. Its long, clawed hands were also formidable tools for fending off these smaller annoyances. The parent might hiss, squawk, and spread its feathered arms to make itself appear larger and more intimidating. The goal was to scare off the threat quickly and efficiently, without having to leave the nest itself vulnerable. Every second spent chasing a scavenger was a second the eggs were left unprotected. This battle against smaller predators was a relentless war of attrition. Each day, the parent would have to fend off multiple attempts on its nest. It was a tiring, stressful existence, but absolutely necessary for the survival of its young. The fossil record doesn't always preserve these small-scale dramas, but the very existence of brooding parents tells us that such threats must have been common. The evolution of such dedicated parental care is a direct response to this kind of predation pressure. The Oviraptorid sat on its nest not just for warmth, but as a living, breathing shield against a world of hungry mouths. While small scavengers were a constant nuisance, a far greater and more terrifying danger occasionally appeared on the horizon. This danger came in the form of the giant predatory dinosaurs that shared the Oviraptorid's world. Creatures like the mighty tyrannosaurs were the apex predators of their time, dwarfing the Oviraptorid in size and power. An encounter with one of these giants was not a matter of annoyance, it was a life-or-death struggle. For a large predator, a brooding Oviraptorid and its clutch of eggs represented a substantial and easily accessible meal. The parent's protective instincts would be tested to their absolute limit. The arrival of a large predator would have been a moment of pure terror. The ground would tremble with its heavy footsteps, and its massive shadow would fall across the vulnerable nest. The Oviraptorid, though a sizable dinosaur itself, was no match for a fully grown tyrannosaur in a direct fight. Its first instinct in the face of such an overwhelming threat was not aggression, but concealment. The parent would crouch down low over its nest, trying to make itself as small and inconspicuous as possible. It might use its feathered body to try and blend in with the surrounding landscape, hoping that the giant predator would simply pass by without noticing them. This strategy of hiding was a desperate gamble. The keen senses of a large carnivore, especially its powerful sense of smell, would make it difficult to remain hidden for long. If the predator detected the nest, the Oviraptorid parent would be faced with a terrible choice: abandon its eggs and save itself, or stand and fight against impossible odds. The fossil evidence suggests that these parents were incredibly brave. The drive to protect their young was so powerful that they would often choose to confront a threat that they had little hope of defeating. This was the ultimate test of parental devotion. The sheer presence of these giant predators shaped the entire ecosystem. It influenced where dinosaurs like the Oviraptorid chose to build their nests, and it reinforced the need for constant vigilance. The threat was not constant, unlike the smaller scavengers, but its potential consequences were final. A single attack from a large predator could wipe out the parent and its entire clutch, ending the family line. The bravery of the Oviraptorid in the face of such danger is a testament to the power of instinct, a drive to ensure the survival of the next generation, even at the cost of its own life. Faced with a world of constant threats, the Oviraptorid's primary survival strategy was often not to fight, but to hide. The first and most crucial line of defense for its nest was camouflage. When choosing a nesting site, the parent would likely look for a location that offered some natural concealment. This might be near a sparse patch of desert plants, among rocks of a similar color to its own body, or in a shallow depression in the sand. The goal was to break up the clear outline of the nest and the brooding parent, making it harder for predators to spot from a distance. Its feathers, which might have been in muted, earthy tones of brown, gray, and sand, would have been essential for this. When a potential threat was detected, especially a large predator in the distance, the Oviraptorid parent's immediate reaction would be to freeze. It would press its body down as low as it could go, covering the eggs completely and tucking its head down. In this position it would remain perfectly still, a feathered mound in the vast, empty landscape. This stillness was key. The eyes of predators are highly attuned to movement, and by remaining motionless, the Oviraptorid had a chance of going completely unnoticed. It was a battle of nerves, waiting and hoping that the danger would pass by without ever realizing the precious meal that lay hidden right before its eyes. This defensive posture was a full-body commitment to invisibility. The parent's feathered arms, which were so useful for shielding the eggs from the sun, would now be held tight against its sides. Its tail would be flat against the ground. Every part of its body would be working to create a low, unremarkable profile. From a distance it might look like just another rock or a small dune. This behavior shows a sophisticated understanding of its environment and the predators within it. It was an active, thoughtful strategy, not just a passive hope for the best. The Oviraptorid was using its own body as a living cloak of invisibility. Of course, camouflage was not foolproof. A predator with a keen sense of smell might still detect the nest, or one might simply stumble upon it by chance. When concealment failed, the situation would escalate dramatically. But for countless small threats and distant dangers, this simple act of hiding in plain sight was likely the most effective defense of all. It conserved the parent's precious energy, which was already being depleted by the long brooding period, and it avoided a potentially fatal confrontation. It was the quiet, unseen part of the Oviraptorid's daily struggle for the survival of its young. When camouflage failed and a predator got too close, the Oviraptorid's behavior would shift in an instant. The quiet, still guardian would transform into a fierce and aggressive defender. If a threat could not be avoided, it had to be confronted directly. For the parent, abandoning the nest was simply not an option. The survival of its offspring depended entirely on its willingness to stand its ground and fight. This was particularly true when facing smaller to medium-sized predators, against which the Oviraptorid had a reasonable chance of success. It would rise up from the nest, making itself look as large and intimidating as possible. The first stage of this confrontation was a threat display. The Oviraptorid would spread its feathered arms wide, like a great bird showing off its wingspan. It might raise the crest on its head and let out loud, startling hisses or squawks. This display was designed to intimidate the attacker, to make it think twice about pressing its attack. It was a message that said, "This nest is protected, and I will fight for it." The dinosaur would position itself between the predator and the eggs, creating a living barrier. Its sharp eyes would be locked on the enemy, tracking its every move, ready to react in a split second. If the threat display was not enough to scare the predator away, the Oviraptorid would not hesitate to go on the offensive. It would lunge forward, using its powerful beak as its primary weapon. This beak, designed for cracking open tough food, could deliver a painful and damaging bite. It would snap and peck at the attacker, aiming for sensitive areas like the face and legs. The parent would also use its long, three-fingered hands, which were tipped with sharp claws. It could slash and swat at the enemy, using its arms to push and block any attempt to get past it to the precious eggs. Even against a much larger predator, where the odds were hopelessly stacked against it, the protective instinct could still drive the Oviraptorid to fight. While it could not win, its ferocious defense might be enough to inflict some pain and confusion, perhaps buying a few precious moments or even convincing the attacker that this meal was not worth the trouble. Many of the fossils we have found of Oviraptorids on their nests show no signs of a struggle, but their very posture is one of defense. They were shielding their eggs to the very end. This transformation from gentle brooder to fierce warrior shows the incredible depth of their parental care. While the Oviraptorid parent stood as a vigilant guard against the living dangers of its world, there was one enemy it could not fight, intimidate, or hide from. This was the environment itself. The late Cretaceous landscapes where these dinosaurs lived were often vast, arid deserts. These regions were prone to extreme and sudden weather events. The greatest and most final threat to many Oviraptorids and their nests was not a predator, but the very ground beneath their feet. Massive sandstorms could whip up with little warning, filling the air with a choking, blinding cloud of sand and dust. Imagine a brooding parent sitting faithfully on its nest. The sky darkens, not with night, but with a colossal wall of sand sweeping across the plains. The wind howls, tearing at its feathers. The parent's instinct is to protect its eggs. It hunkers down, pulling its body in tight, shielding the clutch from the stinging, abrasive sand. It covers the eggs as best it can, a final act of devotion. But this is a force of nature that cannot be weathered. The sand begins to pile up, quickly and relentlessly. Within minutes, the parent and its nest can become buried, entombed by the very desert they called home. Another similar environmental danger came from the sand dunes themselves. Many Oviraptorids may have chosen to nest at the base of these large dunes, perhaps for shelter from the wind. However, these dunes were not always stable. A sudden downpour of rain, a rare but powerful event in the desert, could saturate the sand, making it heavy and unstable. The dune could suddenly collapse in a landslide of wet, heavy sand. A parent dinosaur sitting on its nest below would have no time to react. It would be buried instantly, along with its entire clutch of eggs, in a sudden, silent catastrophe. This type of death, while tragic, is the very reason we know so much about their parental care. Unlike a predator attack, which would scatter the bones and destroy the nest, being buried alive by sand or a collapsing dune creates a perfect time capsule. The parent is preserved exactly as it was in its final moments, sitting on its nest, arms spread over its eggs in a posture of protection. It is a snapshot of behavior, frozen in stone for millions of years. This unseen enemy, the power of nature, was the ultimate threat, and paradoxically, it became the ultimate preserver of their incredible story. The most powerful evidence for the Oviraptorid's incredible parenting comes directly from the fossil record. For many years, these dinosaurs were misunderstood. The very first Oviraptor skeleton found, back in the 1920s, was discovered lying over a nest of eggs. Scientists at the time assumed the eggs belonged to another dinosaur, a protoceratops, and that the Oviraptor had died while raiding the nest. This is how it got its unfortunate name, egg thief. It was a label that stuck for decades, painting a completely false picture of this amazing animal's behavior. This all changed with new discoveries and new technology. In the 1990s, more skeletons of these dinosaurs were found in the Gobi Desert, and these fossils were in an even more remarkable state of preservation. One famous specimen, nicknamed Big Mama, was found in a classic brooding posture, sitting directly on top of a huge clutch of more than 20 eggs. Scientists were able to look inside one of these eggs and found a tiny, perfectly formed Oviraptor embryo. The eggs did not belong to another dinosaur, they were its own. The egg thief was, in fact, a devoted parent. This discovery revolutionized our understanding of dinosaur behavior. It was the first time we had direct, undeniable proof that some dinosaurs cared for their young in a way that is strikingly similar to modern birds. Since then, several more Oviraptorid skeletons have been found in the same position, crouched over their nests. These fossils are not just bones, they are snapshots of a moment in time from over 70 million years ago. They capture the final protective act of a parent shielding its young from a disaster, most likely a sudden sandstorm or a collapsing sand dune that buried them alive. These incredible fossils are a story written in stone. They tell us about the shape of the nest, the number of eggs, and the exact posture the parent took to protect them. We can see how their arms were spread to cover the clutch, just as a mother hen would cover her chicks. This is not speculation or guesswork, it is direct physical evidence. The story of the Oviraptorid is a perfect example of how science works. New evidence can challenge old ideas and completely rewrite what we thought we knew. The egg thief has been redeemed, and its true identity as one of history's great parents has been forever cemented in the fossil record. The story of the Oviraptorid is more than just a fascinating tale about a single type of dinosaur. It is a window into the deep history of one of the most powerful forces in the natural world, the bond between a parent and its young. The dedicated, selfless behavior of these ancient creatures shows us that complex parental care is not a recent invention. It has been evolving on our planet for an incredibly long time. The image of an Oviraptorid shielding its eggs from a sandstorm is a powerful reminder that the instinct to protect one's offspring is a primal and enduring part of life. This legacy of care provides one of the strongest and most beautiful links between dinosaurs and their living descendants, the birds. When we watch a robin on its nest or a swan defending its cygnets, we are seeing behavior that has its roots in the age of dinosaurs. The act of building a nest, carefully arranging the eggs, using body heat to incubate them, and fiercely defending them from danger did not begin with birds. It was practiced millions of years earlier by their feathered, non-flying dinosaur ancestors. The Oviraptorid is a perfect missing link in the evolution of this behavior. The fossil evidence has given us a gift. It has allowed us to look back in time and witness a scene of tender devotion from a lost world. These discoveries have helped to change our perception of dinosaurs from slow, simple-minded reptiles to active, complex, and sometimes caring animals. They had family lives, they faced daily struggles, and they made ultimate sacrifices for their young, just as many animals do today. The Oviraptorid, the egg guardian, teaches us that even creatures that seem alien and strange can share behaviors that we find deeply familiar and moving. Ultimately, the Oviraptorid parent, buried in its final act of protection, did not fail. In a way, it succeeded beyond measure. By dying on its nest, it preserved the story of its devotion for millions of years, waiting for a future species to uncover it. That fossil, frozen in time, ensures that its young were not lost to history. Instead, they have become immortal, teaching us a profound lesson about the timeless, enduring power of parental care. The Oviraptorid was not just guarding a clutch of eggs, it was guarding a legacy that continues to fly and sing in the world all around us today.